What's up with y'all, man? And I guess we're here. I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I'm doing it. This is your Ben Askren versus Jake Paul breakdown. I mean, I I like boxing. I know a lot of y'all know this is mainly an MMA channel, but I actually watch boxing. I watched Ron Ennis versus Lipinus last week. I've watched a lot of boxing, right? Growing up. And I like the sport. I don't think the sport is necessarily dead. I just think the fan base don't like it as much as they used to, and well, not the fan base, but the general public doesn't like it, and they start saying, well, let me rephrase it. The general public doesn't like it like it used to, right? And now they're starting to say matchups like this is killing boxing, and they're right. But boxing isn't dead. We got a lot of great boxers, man. A lot of great boxers to watch. Danny Garcia, Earl Spence, uh, Bud Crawford, man. So many great. Tyson Fury, man. So many, Sean Porter. Really fun boxers to watch, right? Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, the Charlo twins, man. Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, Javante Davis, so many guys. Even Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, so many guys. Usyk, right? So many guys. But the problem with boxing right now is when you have motherfuckers like this, like Jake Paul, taking over the sport, and that's what everyone's talking about it. And that's the sad part, is that we have to deal with this kind of situation, right? But it is what it is at the end of the day. But I will be breaking down this fight. You guys have requested it. I tried my darnest to ignore this nonsense, but you know this is, I guess, supposedly MMA versus boxing, but in no way do any of these guys, fucking, so represent boxing or MMA. Like, I don't think MMA fans love Ben Askren. Like, some of them do, and I thought he was an enjoyable character for as long as he lasted. But I'll tell you another thing: boxing fans hate this fool Jake Paul. So this fight, it's shameful. It's and it's just wrong. I'll say that it's just straight up wrong. But it is what it is. I will talk about this, and the sad thing is, it's not like I don't like. I noticed some predictors aren't really that familiar with the YouTube boxing space. Man, I've seen this develop since day one with Joe Weller versus KSI. I know Joe Weller did a fight before that, but I've been paying attention to this nonsense from the beginning, and it all, man. If you really want, I blame Joe Weller. He started all this dumb ignorance with his YouTube boxing. And it started getting popular. Then KSI fought Joe Weller. KSI beat him, and then they did this fight. And a lot of people don't want to talk about this, and I guess I'm gonna talk about the origin of YouTube boxing. Um, Jake Paul was scared to fight KSI. Like, he was scared to fight the guy, and Logan Paul had to step up. And I will be honest, I actually like Logan Paul better. I think he's a better human being. I listen to his podcast. It's not a bad podcast. He had Ben Askren, and I thought that was pretty fun to watch, and I thought that was really endearing for Ben. But yeah, man, it's wild though. It really is wild. And he was scared to fight KSI because he was soft. So they have the amateur fights. Jake fights Deji. And I know there's this very famous picture of Jake with a bloody nose, but if I'm being honest, he dominated the whole entire fight and was going forward. And Deji didn't really do anything. Deji was tough, but also to Deji's defense, apparently, supposedly, he didn't train at all. So, and he kind of looked like it. So I wasn't surprised. KSI and Logan fought. They fought to a draw. I thought Logan did really, really good in that fight. I thought KSI he just has heart, really, and he fights like a coon on the street. Logan, I would say, is somewhat more skilled than KSI. But, again, when I start saying skill, I'm talking about at a novice level of boxing. Very novice. These guys are very, very new. You know, they haven't put the work in, right? But it is what it is, right? So then KSI, runs it back with Logan. KSI ends up winning due to the 2 point deduction. I thought it was kind of bullshit, but it is what it is. Um, and then Jake is in a weird position where Logan's lost, and he has kind of like this back burner fight based on the KSI Logan Paul fight. Almost he fought Gibb, who was a friend of KSI, and he fought Gibb, and he ended up having a really good performance. And this is where the ties start changing from Logan Paul to Jake Paul, where Jake Paul is probably the face of right now YouTube boxing, where he started to take over and he started to separate himself from the pack. He did a lot of great things preparing for Gibb. He started training with Sugar Shane Mosley, and BJ Flores, and he went to Big Bear, and nothing against Logan, but him training with Shannon Briggs, in my humble opinion, a professional yes man, it didn't help him. I think Jake was able to develop faster than Logan because based on the fact that he trained like a boxer. This is what's going to be a really key factor in the Ben Askren match, is that Jake is training like a boxer. He thinks in his head he's a boxer, right? And that's what is separating Jake from the pack. He is fallen in love with the sport. He is a former wrestler, so I do have a respect for his work ethic. In my humble opinion, I'm a wrestler too, and I just believe wrestlers are a different breed. We just live by a different code. We work hard and we grind. So and we make weight. That's why I get kind of disappointed with Kevin Lee when I see him miss weight. And it's like, come on, man, you're a wrestler. You should know better. But you know, with someone like Jake, you know, he's gonna work hard. You can't really deny that from him. And with the wrestling background, and he wasn't the best wrestler. Obviously, Logan was a better wrestler. He was the state champion, but he was a decent enough wrestler growing up in high school. So I know he has a good work ethic, and he showed it against Gibb. Got the 3 knockdowns. Showed that he had a better jab, and Gibb just couldn't take the punches without headgear. Obviously, he wasn't ready for the difference between a pro and amateur fight. And then he fights you know Nate Robinson. I'm some of you guys don't know this, but I like basketball. I'm a big fan of basketball. I've been watching it my whole life. I like basketball and MMA, man. Those are my two favorite sports. Nate Robinson was a fucking killer, man. He played for the Warriors. He played for the Chicago Bulls. Played for the Knicks. He's a real hero to a lot of hoopers. He wasn't the tallest guy, but he's probably considered one of the greatest athletes of all time in NBA history because he was able to play football. And, he was a scrappy guy. He's a dog, He had a lot of Pat Beverly in him, but he's more just athletic, He's not like a dummy like Pat Bev, who's just a fucking hacker, And, obviously I don't want to go into basketball, but so Nate, obviously was a beloved guy in the basketball community, right? They like him, and, he could do no wrong, right? He he I think sparred up or no partner up with Reyes Boxing, and I don't know what happened, but I just saw the training and it just looked very amateurish, and not even like as an amateur fighter, like it just looked like it was his first days ever learning how to box, and it just looked like he didn't have the proper amount of time to fight someone who's had a good two years, I think, at the time, or three to close years now, getting ready for the sport, and I knew he was gonna knock him out. And then I saw the sparring footage he released, and it told a story that was pretty sad, if I'm being honest. And he killed him, he murdered him. And I saw that coming, man. And obviously the sparring partners that Jake had, it was a fucking joke. I don't know where they got some of those people. I just think that some of them are fans, or maybe guys that have done a few boxing classes on Zoom. Like I don't know what I saw that day, but I just knew that if he's knocking these guys out in sparring, hopefully these guys are getting paid good money to go out there and get whooped on. Um, he's probably gonna do his thing, and now he's fighting Ben Askren, and I've kind of explained the story pretty well, right? Now Ben, how did Ben get here? Okay, so we can really talk about his run in the UFC. Ben was he's obviously has accolades in Bellator, wins over Douglas Lima, Yoris Avalov. Oh, dude, oh man, I mispronounced the shit out of his name. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. A lot of good wins. Um, he was the former ONE FC champion, I think yeah, welterweight. I don't think he went up to middleweight, even though with the water testing and stuff like that, it is what it is. But he was an accomplished guy. He for a long time a lot of people felt like he should have been in the UFC, maybe through 2013, that kind of era. He fights Robbie Lawler. Y'all see what happened there. Got smashed up, but he came back, and got the choke, got the bulldog choke, and some people, they thought it was bullshit, but it is what it is. So then he fights, Jorge Masvidal. I saw that one coming. I just felt like I didn't like the performance by Ben, and I felt like that fucking street bum was gonna get this done. And the sad thing about that motherfucker got a big fucking role to play in this fucking fight. By the way, because of him, I gotta make this breakdown. But you know, yeah, it hurt Ben's career, and then Ben fights Damian Maya, loses that fight, gets submitted. You know, he was bound to get submitted. It was waiting to happen, and then we find out Ben has a fucking a hip issue, and he retires. He supposedly retires, right? And we don't see nothing from Ben, but they offered Ben this contract, and I hope the money's good, Ben, and now he's fighting Jake Paul, and that has how we got here. I hope I explained that for 11 straight minutes. But the issue here with this fight and how I personally feel about this situation is it's stupid, man. You have a guy that has Ben Askren himself has said on the Joe Rogan podcast, there was a time I gave up on striking because it was affecting the way I fight, and it wasn't helping me, and he just said I was just gonna grapple because I'm gonna grapple anyone, and I'm gonna grapple everyone, right? And they're not gonna hit me, so it doesn't matter, and this is what he said. I've seen him strike. He cannot strike to save his life, and obviously that was a big mistake by Duke Rufus and Rufus Sport, and everyone that helped him in his MMA journey, because they left a very big hole in his game, and he never learned how to properly strike. And Jake is a smart guy. They picked the right opponent, but you know he has a chance though. But if we look at the tail of the tape, right, and we look at how these guys are built, right, you got someone, right, and Jake that's 24 years old. He's been a pro for a year. He's 6'1". He has a reach of 76, right, and he's 200 plus. Obviously, I think they're gonna meet at 195, right. Then you got a guy like Ben who's 36. He's been a pro for 12 years in MMA, right, and he's 5'10", and has an inch of 72. No, a reach of 72. Sorry, misspoke there. You know, Jake has shown that he has a really good jab going backwards. I think this is going to be the biggest factor. His footwork looks decent. Ben is super flat-footed, but that's okay. If Ben's going to go forward, then it's okay to be flat-footed for him. Both guys are orthodox, so they don't really have a big, there's not going to be a really big stance stuff. So it's going to be pretty simple. If Ben was southpaw, then maybe Ben could do something there. But this is the situation we're looking at. Here's one way. I'm going to talk about how Jake can win this fight, and I'm also going to talk about how Ben can win this fight, and I'll bring up Jake first. Jake, again, I brought this up before. He is training the right way. He is training like a professional fighter. He's training like a boxer, and he has a camp, and he has people behind him, and he has a very, very elite guys with him. He is sparring on a daily basis. Jay Leon Love, a legitimate guy, in the Money Team Promotions, a guy that fought for world titles, lost to David Benavidez, and he is sparring with him every day, right? So that is what he has in his back, right? That's what we're dealing with. That's what Ben is going to have to fight. A guy that gets, proper, legitimate sparring partners, right? Yeah, I get it. Ben went to Freddie Roach, but it was only for a week. And then George St. Pierre goes on the Joe Rogan podcast and said Freddie was disappointed he was only there for a week. And that's not good. This is not a good thing for this situation. And Jake has also been sparring, or sparred maybe one time with Anthony Direll. That's another guy that fought a high level guy in David Benavidez. Benavidez is in the same talent pool as the Charlo twins, as Caleb Plant, legitimate top contenders, and guys that think that will give a guy like Canelo some problems. These are the kind of guys he's sparring with. This is the kind of help he's getting. Legitimate pros. Now, the question is, are those guys going as hard as they can? Are those guys, whooping on him? Or are these guys, trying to give him an ego boost, right? These are the questions. But we can obviously see that some of this stuff is paying off. And that's the saddest part about this whole entire situation. This kid is setting himself up for success, right? And he has all the tools, all the boxing ability to go out there and knock Ben Askren out or batter him for I think 8 rounds. I think that's how long they're gonna go for, right? This is a real situation, and that's something that can happen. I can see Ben either getting knocked out or getting battered for 8 straight rounds, and that's one way I can see Jake winning. I don't think Jake has a bad gas tank. He's working hard. You go watch the videos. He's training hard. He's a wrestler. He understands he has to work hard. So he's not no punk. I'll say that. But for Ben, so Ben has sparred up with a boxer named K9. K9's a really good boxer in his day. Now he's a coach. I think that's not a bad guy. Obviously, he has Duke Rufus in his corner. I think Tyron Woodley will be also in his corner. So not bad people be around. There's been sparring footage leaked. It hasn't looked good. There's been bag footage leaked. It hasn't looked good. But I'm actually happy that none of this stuff looks good. Because Ben doesn't need to be a world-class boxer to go out there and win this fight. Because there's no point in Ben doing that in 6 weeks, 8 weeks of training. He can't do that. That's just dumb. He doesn't have the skills. What he's there to do is challenge Jake Paul in one area. And it's basically his ability to deal with adversity. It's his gas tank. It's his will to win. That is all Ben is there to challenge. And Ben is taking a gamble here. He's going to go out there, and there's a big chance he could get knocked out, but he's going to go out there and try to challenge this guy's will to win and how he deals with adversity. I think Ben is taking a gamble where he thinks this guy's not that good, and this might pay off. And here's why I'll say. Even though I told y'all, Jake Paul works really, really hard. There is a difference between practice and sparring in real life competition. You can look like a champion on the pads. Can you do it in a real fight? That's basically where this comes down to. Because we look at other UFC fighters, like let's say, I'll give you for example, Marlon Moraes. He has a bad gas tank. But do you really think Marlon Moraes isn't running? Do you really think Marlon Moraes is gassing out and sparring? Hell no. There's a different kind of pressure you get on the spotlight. I remember when I was wrestling, I could wrestle for 2 hours during practice. But when I went to a wrestling tournament, even if it's college or high school, right? It was tough. It was really, really tough to wrestle for 6 minutes hard against real competition, against a real competitive setting when everything really matters. It's a high pressure situation. The spotlight can make you or break you. And I think Ben is going to try to challenge that on fight day. He wants to challenge this guy's will to win in front of the spotlight, and that's really what's going to go on. And that's one way I can see Ben winning. Now, obviously, I got to go with the MMA guy. Y'all know me. I have to go with the guy. And I'm taking Ben Askren by 7th round TKO. I know this sounds crazy, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. But hope you guys enjoy the video. Go follow me on my Instagram. Go follow me on my Twitter. And it is what it is. Love y'all and goodbye.